Hello, all of you wonderful, unique beings. It's Halloween for all those that are ghouls and goblins or whatever the hell you want to consider yourself to be. But it's Tuesday, October 31st, and we're here to talk sports. I love them. It's brand new Sam. Brand new Sam. I can't even believe it.
What's up,
and
man?
we'll be doing this every Tuesday. We have some crazy stuff to talk about. A major injury to one of the stars of quarterbacks on Netflix. That was Kirk Cousins. Even though the team wasn't doing the greatest, even he kind of was willing the team to have a potential chance to be in the playoffs. And this injury was just not good, Sam. It's just more and more people are going down with Achilles injuries. Apparently, your quarterback is potentially going to come back as if he never even had one. I still don't even understand that. Explain it to me, please, Sam. Please.
Yeah, I don't know. The league office is going to test him as soon as that game's over, I bet. Whenever that day comes. It's wild, right? Sure. Like, you see him moving around, throwing the ball?
Yes, doing dropbacks, and just throwing whatever. This is when today, for the people that are watching this live, this is coming out tomorrow on the actual pod or on all platforms that you can get it and listen to us on. But for the people that are listening to this tomorrow, it's trade deadline day. It's at 4 p.m. if I remember correctly, right, Sam?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's
so 4. We've already had one trade that happened today when we're actually recording, and I'm sure there's plenty more to come. So we'll definitely get into that. What's going on with the Niners? The Bengals seemingly turned their whole season back around. We'll get into that. We'll get into our dubs and L's for first-time viewers. That's winners and losers, formerly winners and losers. We just don't want to call anybody a loser in NFL because clearly they're not. We're going to get into my power rankings that Sam is going to critique. Hopefully he's going to be nice to me this week. We'll see what happens with that. We'll tell what our picks were and how we've done thus far this year, especially including Instagram or whatnot. Get into some basketball because it is the season. It's the best time of the year. We got all major sports really going at this point in time. And then we'll get into a little college football as well. So with that being said, let me get back to this rundown real quick. Now to introduce the most dominating tag team from the East. Part one of that tag team, the brains of the team, our number cruncher. He's the advisor, Sam. What's up, Sam?
Hey, my friend. What's going on?
Happy Halloween. So weak. I'm going to do that again.
Wow.
He's the advisor, live. Sam. What's up, Sam?
You call me the advisor, you call me the number cruncher, and then you expect me to be like blow the doors down with energy? I don't even like math. I'm not even good at math.
Absolutely. All right. So, Sam,
what's up, man?
Can you tell us how you're doing? Is
well,
that better, number cruncher?
According to the data, no, it's good, man. What's up, man? Happy Halloween to you.
Yeah, all that jazz. I'm thinking about you doing trick or treating with the kiddos.
Oh yeah, man. I've never liked Halloween until, having kids, and now it's like it's just whatever they want, man. It's all about them. So I don't think my daughter quite knows what's going on, but she likes her costume, and okay. My son's all about it. So yeah, it's been fun.
Are you dressing up?
I am not. I have not yet, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
You know that's going to change at some point, and I can't wait when it does because I will be here for all of it. But yeah, I'm glad you're good, man. I'm glad you're good. I'm the other half of the dude. I'm just Branden. I'm just here so I don't get fined. This is episode 113 of the Chasing Points podcast. And let's get into it, Sam. So you guys may hear from Kylo. That is my dog for first-time listeners because he tends to join us on certain segments. But we'll just get into the highlights right now, Sam. And what I'm seeing right off rip here, as I said, the trade deadline is, for those that are listening, tomorrow on our all DSPs. Trade deadline is at 4 p.m. Are there any trades that you think or anybody that you think is going to be moved at this point in time? I mean, we already have Leonard Williams that was moved from the Giants to the Seahawks earlier today for a 2024 second pick and a 2025 fifth round pick. So do you think there's going to be any other moves that are like that? Some big pieces moving, some small pieces. What do you think is going to happen from this point?
there's been a lot of, chatter, and the trade deadline never used to be a thing when we were younger, right? In the NFL, and all of a sudden, last couple of years, it's like Christian McCaffrey, all these huge deals happen in the middle of the season. I remember when Jimmy G got moved to the Raiders. That was a big one, and one of the first big ones in this era. But it's weird because a lot of teams or news outlets have kind of rescinded the rumors, right? There was a lot of like the market's quiet on Derrick Henry. Now Derrick Henry's not available. After this week, DeAndre Hopkins, is he available? Had a monster game, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. The Bills were trying to get more room, more depth in that running back room. They just signed Leonard Fournette. Again, I don't know what that's going to do, but uh, yeah, there's nothing that really jumps off the top. I thought it was a good move by Seahawks getting Leonard Williams. Always liked Leonard Williams with his days with the Jets, but it kind of signals that the Giants are looking to retool already. But I don't know. Nothing really pops off to me. What do you think? Anything? Especially, I know you monitor your birds pretty closely there.
Linebacker is what I'm hearing for the Eagles. But I want to get into the trade that the G-men made. I believe this is the end of what we know this to be. So everybody pretty much is up for sale at this point. They're now down to the third string quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting rid of Leonard Williams and getting a second round pick. I think that's a great move for them. That's definitely a win I think it's a win-win for both teams. It gives the Seahawks another tool to use on that D-line or in that defense that they have some incredible players on. Witherspoon being one of them. Absolutely love how he's playing.
They've drafted so well on that side of the ball.
They really
overall,
did.
even on their both lines, they've done a really good job last couple of years.
And your former player that you still thank for some of the players that you have now, Jamal Adams, has looked like he's been great since coming back, flying all over the field too. So hopefully he can stay healthy. But I think for the Giants, this is a great move. I know Saquon has said openly that he wants to stay, but if I'm the Giants and you're looking to get more and rebuild, I'm getting rid of all the assets now. I'm getting rid of Saquon immediately at this point because you only signed him to a 1-year deal. And you had this whole back and forth during the offseason about should we pay him, should we not? Really, the person you shouldn't have paid was Danny Ducks, but that's a whole nother topic. So I believe that they may be big players in here because at this point, Dable has a lot to answer for. And this team has not been what it potentially could have been. You know how I feel about what I thought their potential was from the get. So there's that. Going back to my Birds linebacker, I can also see them getting a corner, which Bradbury is getting up there, and he's been pretty much exposed throughout the season thus far. And Darius Slay is also looking pretty exposable at this point in time. But I think they try to get younger on that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get an offensive piece. Going back to your Derrick Henry point, I know the Titans say that he is not up for sale. I don't believe that. I believe he's not up for sale because they haven't seen a deal that they want to see. But I definitely could see that. But if they're going to put all their coins in the Will Levis bucket now, it's possible. I don't know if that is going to be a thing or not. I think there's going to be a lot of defensive players moving. I think the Bears are going to try to be acquiring some players or whatnot. I could definitely see some Super Bowl contenders trying to. I know the Cowboys are potentially trying to get some players, even though Jerry said they're not really trying to do too much, that we have essentially all the pieces in-house. And I think they do. But, I mean, getting another piece to help can't be bad.
No, definitely not. We've seen how important depth is in this league, right? It's just it's the constant next guy up. It's important. Yeah.
I could see Dalvin Cook being traded from your team. I know he's not satisfied right now, and obviously it was supposed to be a different looking team at this point. I was supposed to be Rodgers under center, and the way that they would have utilized him, he came there to play with Rodgers, so I get it. But yeah, I also feel like teams that really, really aren't producing, that have some solid wide receivers, can be moving them soon. I know the Broncos had a big win, which we'll get to, but I still believe that the Broncos are sellers at this point in time too, because they're 2-5 now. After that win, or
Yeah,
3-5, three and
I
five
think
after that win,
it's. I
three and
think it
five
might
now.
be 2-5 or three and
Okay,
five.
but
I would
still,
honestly look at everyone except for Patrick Surtain if I was the Broncos. Again, you can't move Wilson just because that deal's got to be atrocious and the cap ramifications of that. But you have some depth at running back. You have some young guys that can take over if you want to move like a Samaje Perine, Jerry Jeudy. Not sure when they have to pick up that option or if they will, but his name's been thrown around a lot. Now you're kind of in. I mean, the momentum's high. It's you just beat the Chiefs. We'll get to it. Um, but it's kind of for a 17 game season or 16 or a 17 game season to have it be in week 8. There's still a lot of teams that could go either way. So it's an interesting time to kind of like are, are we going all in? Are we just going to take our foot off the gas? You know, if you're not at the bottom of the barrel, and you can make a strong case that these divisions are open, the wild card spots are open. So it'd be really interesting to see what comes next.
well, I guess we know that your team is not going to go for this guy, because this was the talk of what they were going to do when Rodgers went down, and that's Kirk Cousins. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Kirk Cousins went down. He's now an Achilles brother with me, and he
Starting your
tore
own
his.
fraternity here, man.
We have a very deep fraternity. It's
Yeah,
not great. Um, yeah, Kirk Cousins went down, and just watching the reaction, I saw the reverberation and immediately knew what it was.
yeah,
It's that plant, that further extension, that plant, it happens, and that kind of the thrust to move, and it just popped. And I know when they see it, it's going to probably look like it exploded inside of there, is exactly what my doctor told me. And it's not great. I mean, he was in a contract year. Again, he was playing some of the best football that he's ever played in his whole entire career. Uh, I do believe in certain aspects of his game he is underrated, but as you know how I feel about Kirk Cousins, when it gets to those big games, not really the greatest. But I've talked about that. It's not about that right now. I don't know what they do now, because now they become potential sellers themselves,
yeah.
because they don't have Justin Jefferson right now, who's set to come back, I think, this
It's
week or the following week, right?
Yeah, it's minimum 4 game IR stay. So I'm not quite sure where he's at with that. He's got a
Mm-hmm.
game or two left, but yeah, I mean, and Jordan Addison's filled in just
Well,
fine. I know that was a receiver that we loved coming out of USC in the draft this year, but it's they started 0-3, right? This Vikings, this team that we kept talking about all year last year about, and the stat, how many games they won that were like one score games that went their way. And all of a sudden they start 0-3, 1-4, and now they're at 500. They're 4-4. You know, making easily. I think the Lions will run. I think we both know the Lions, or want the Lions to run away with this division, but they're right
yeah.
there, as you mentioned. And now, Nick Mullins is on their practice squad. They're a rookie from BYU, like a 5th or 6th round pick. I forgot his name. It's the backup. So, I don't know if you try to salvage it, you get, your boy Carson Wentz or Colt McCoy or something, or you just kind of see what you have there. But yeah, that again, a crossroads where this team didn't really expect to be where they're at, and now it's, they have 24 hours to figure something out. It's rough.
I mean, if you have a solid backup on a team right now, that could be that. I mean, we have Mariota for not to say we. The Eagles have Mariota, so that's something that can do. By the way, the Eagles just traded Kentavious Street and the 2025 7th round pick to the Atlanta Falcons for a conditional 2024 6th round pick. So that just happened 5 minutes ago,
Breaking
when
news.
we're doing this. But yeah, I don't know what they do now. It's definitely. I mean, does Carson get a call now? Do they pack it in? because I think if I remember correctly as well, Justin Jefferson is also in a contract year, if I remember correctly, because he said he wanted to go wherever Kurt was going, which was
He
also a
said that,
surprise to
really?
me. That
That's interesting.
super surprising to me. I'll believe that when I see it because there's plenty of places that he can go, but I'm definitely intrigued by that. So I mean, prayers up to Kurt and his family. He gained so many fans from just the Netflix series off that. Like a lot of people that doubted Kurt or whatever the case may be, like they are now fans of him just based off of that. So shout out to him, and I wish you a speedy recovery for sure.
Yeah,
So,
Jefferson's not in a walk year, but I think he's eligible for an extension. And,
mhm.
there's been a lot of back and forth there. Certainly, they're rebuilding or not. You gotta lock this guy down when healthy. He's one or two best receiver in football, and I don't think that's a question. Yeah, I don't know
He's
who
the
you
best
else you're
receiver
gonna
in
put there.
football.
Yeah,
He's
Jamar
not
Chase,
when he's
AJ
playing, he's
Brown,
the
he's
number
right
one
there.
receiver. Yeah,
Yeah, when he's on, there's no one better. And
it's
and to have Addison emerge, and then you have Hawkinson, you could do a lot with that offense. You can't just
yeah,
double. It's not a given that you're doubling JJ now. It's like you know, there's a lot to think about in that offense.
that's for
So
sure.
yeah,
I mean, but
definitely
JJ's still on everybody's mind. He definitely gives the DC a bad night's rest before they have to play him. So that's just
sure.
bound to happen. Somebody that should have got rest, but seems like his way has worked out. Uh, is your man Joe Burrow, as Dame would like to call him, Thorough Burrow, has been out here slinging the rock, and they played the Niners, and he did just that. They have now won 3 games. The Bengals have won 3 games in a row now since, right? And the Niners have lost 3 games in a row, if I remember correctly. That's how it's gone.
Yeah, the Bengals started the season 1-3, and what have they gone 4-1 since, or
Yeah.
3-1 since? So yeah, it's kind of the opposite where now we're at 3 losses in a row for the 49ers going into a bye, and a lot to think about there. The shine, the allure has been rubbing off of this, offense in San Francisco, that and defense, frankly,
Hmm.
that we, just spent 2 weeks ago saying that they're the best team in football, or very strong 1A in football, and they're going to be a tough out. And since then, the wheels have fallen off. So I thought it was an interesting. I mean, Monday night they're in Minnesota, flying home from a loss. Brock Purdy has concussion symptoms.
Hmm.
He's put in protocol and he's cleared so quickly. And I think since this new protocol has been introduced, Adam Schefter reported that the only other um, quarterback or player that has cleared it during the week was Kenny Pickett last year. So, like, the team, would they have been better off with Sam Darnold? We don't know. But it's Brock had, the allure came off. He had trouble with turnovers there, and it was just a rough day. But again, we know how potent this Bengals offense is, and we could talk about the dysfunctional offense of the 49ers, but that defense in San Francisco didn't stop them either. So
Well,
there's that.
I'll go with this point is they essentially pegged him as, and him, I mean Brock Purdy. They pegged him as Tom Brady. The way that they were talking about this young man, at his first game that he won was against Tom Brady, and then from there the sky was the limit. He didn't lose any games, and of course everybody throws the asterisk on it and with against the Eagles or whatnot. And then fast forward to this year, starts out hot, no interceptions, so on and so forth. Right, look good until he didn't look good. Right. And now what I'm hearing, Sam, and this is what I want to be fair. I talked to a buddy that's a Cowboys fan, and one of the points that he made was, you know, because they have a really big rivalry. They've always had one essentially since the early 90s. We know the battles, Jerry Rice, Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin, all that going on, right? And it's kind of been renewed, even though it's been lopsided at this point in time. It's been essentially all the Niners. But I think it's fair to talk about Brock Purdy as we talk about the Daks of the world. And what I explained and said to my buddy, I said the reason why Dak gets so scrutinized is Dak has been in the league for quite some times. And he's been the face of a franchise that is considered to be America's team. One of the most lucrative teams in sport history and just in general, one of the most lucrative teams, period, or franchises, period,
Yeah,
right?
it's a brand. It's a
It's
brand
a
that
brand in itself. Yep.
transcends sports, right?
Correct.
Everyone knows. Everyone knows what that star is and means. Just like the Yankee NY, like it
Agreed.
just transcends sports. Yeah,
Agreed.
for sure.
But it's seeing how Purdy's playing, it says to me that teams have done their homework. And now we know what you do. And now you beat us. Now, the defense that I've been seeing all over Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it is, well, Purdy doesn't have Trent Williams. Purdy doesn't have Deebo Samuel. Okay. There's a lot of teams that don't have their best player. Kirk Cousins, we were just talking about him. He didn't have the best wide receiver when he's playing. He didn't have him. And Kurt was still doing what he had to do, right? So I don't want to hear it. I think the biggest part that wasn't really talked about during the offseason was how big of a departure D'Amico Ryans was.
Yeah.
Because you can see with that defensive
point.
line, yes, they went and got Javon Hargrave from the Eagles, picked him up, paid him a huge contract. Bosa sat out. They had contract disputes, whatnot. He signed a big deal, right? There's a lot of money on that D line, right? But they're not getting the pressure that they once did. The linebackers, who are some of the best linebackers in the league, Fred Warner, arguably one of the best, if not the best linebacker, not tackling like they once did, right? That secondaries, they're putting no fear in anybody's heart that they're playing. And you can see that because these teams are coming out before the game. Because if you pay attention or if you don't know, the Niners always come down the hall with their boombox, and that's how they get ready and do that. And now teams are doing that to basically say, we don't give a damn what you do. We're going to show you. We're going to punch you in your mouth every time. And that's what's been happening. And the response has been lackluster. You said about him being in concussion protocol, the way that man hit his head off the ground this game, like it felt like Tua to me. Like it felt like I just got flashbacks to the Tua situation. So I don't know where the Niners go from here. As I've said, I've seen Niners fans essentially like packing it in for the year. I've seen people, not really too many optimistic people, but as I've said to some of my annoying fellow Eagles fans, is relax. It's still very early in the season. Like it's the first half of the season is almost done. We have a whole nother half coming.
47, I think I heard last night, 48% of the season is over. So yeah, you're right. Half the season left.
So there's time. They're not they aren't the complete versions of themselves. I don't think really any team is, unless it's a really, really bad team, like let's just say the Panthers, who somehow, some way pulled out a win this week, right? It all depends. It really, really all depends. So I'm just really, really curious to see what happens on that. But let's just jump into this since we were just talking about.
Yeah, I will say too, real quick, he's 5 interceptions in the last 3 games. 2 of those interceptions you could argue were after that hit the concussion in last week's game. So he had 2 last game, 2 in this game. He's gotten sacked 6 times over that too. Yeah, Trent Williams is one of the best in the game. There's a lot of problems. Fortunately, they're going to buy. I'm with you. I'm not hitting the panic button if I'm a 49er fan, but it's getting really tight as the Seahawks are now in first place in that division. So
that's saying something in itself. The team that I said they were rivals with is the Cowboys, who absolutely stomped out the Rams. But again, it's kind of been the same formula for the Cowboys. The Cowboys look really, really good when their defense, which we know and we will never discredit, their defense is one of the top, if not the top. And I will say at this point in time, they are the top defense in the league. I can honestly, genuinely say that they are the top defense in the league when they play up to their potential. Right. And they showed that on Sunday. Is they absolutely showed the Rams, you're not going to beat us any way that you want to. They got up early, forced Matt Stafford to turn the ball over on several occasions. And then it's at that point in time, it's been easy it was easy pickings for Dak just to be able to sit back there and just toss the ball. Right now, when I say that, I don't want to discredit what the offense has done, because ever since that whole argument and seeing CeeDee Lamb pissed on the sideline, he's
Yeah.
turned it up a notch, right? He's absolutely turned it up a notch. I'm going to need people to stop saying that he's better than A.J. Brown, because you're absolutely smoking something, but we'll get into that in a second.
We talk so much about how great this defense is and that they're carrying the offense. I heard this last night too. 420 plus point wins this season for the Cowboys. They've won 4 games by 20 or more points.
But that all those games were them
course.
up from their defense first, and they were
Right,
able to finally do that, right? So it makes it easier. It's like, I relate it to pitching, Sam, and I know you're a huge baseball fan, so you can understand that.
Yeah.
If a pitcher gets run support, they're able to let loose, be able to do a little bit more, and just
breathing room. Yeah.
Just do what they got to do. Now I can
don't
sit
need
back
to be
comfortably.
perfect, right?
I know my defense can do what they got to do, right? I know what my offense did. I can now pitch and do some things, right? So I believe this is going to be, the Cowboys have had some tests already this year. And the tests were, they failed against the Niners. They got absolutely obliterated by the Niners. And yet somehow, some way, they're talking about Jerry Jones went on the radio last week and was talking about, oh, the Niners can be had. Well, Jerry, you guys lost against them, and you've lost against them every time you played them in the last 2 to 3 years. So they can't be had by you, apparently, in your team.
They're
so
being had right now, but
yeah,
where
they're
it's
having
headed,
you is what they're doing. But I
42 to
do,
10.
again, if you paid attention to any of the games this week, and the term "any given Sunday" is so true, because anybody can win at any point in time. Sam, when your team beat my team, I don't think either of us thought that it was going to actually happen, and it did. And then turn around, and then your team has this crazy game with the Giants, which is
99% probability from ESPN that game was over, something like that.
Yeah,
any given Sunday.
It's weird.
We don't sit here and just like week to week overreact, right?
No point to.
We're not saying we're not saying that the 49ers are even done because of this sour sweat stretch. We didn't say that about the Bengals. Whatever, man.
Is disgusting.
It's Monday, man. It's been a long day. The Bengals too. We weren't. Things need to be fixed. Clearly, the quarterback was not healthy. We'll see. It all comes out in the wash, right? We'll see in January.
Yeah, I mean, it's for Eagles fan, it's Cowboy weeks, and for Cowboys fan, it's Eagle week. So it's a huge week. This is a test for essentially both teams. Even though the Eagles have had passed essentially all their tests, they definitely had a slip up, and nobody thought they were going to win and go undefeated. There's only been one team for a reason, because it's extremely hard to do. But we're going to see what turns out, because on paper, these teams are not too far apart, but the way that things have played out, it has seemed that, especially record-wise, but divisionally, they are very, very close. So very, very curious to see how that happens. But let's get into dubs and L's for first-time listeners. It's winners, losers, formerly that. The first winner that I have and should be in the MVP conversation is A.J. Brown, a.k.a. always open, because that man is literally always open. The one-handed catch that he made against the Commanders, he's had 6 straight 25-yard games, which that then passed Megatron, which says a lot. You just passed a Hall of Famer. He's easily, if he continues on this course, he's easily going to be the greatest wide receiver to ever play for the Eagles. And they've had some pretty good wide receivers. T.O. is the top, I would say, at this point in my mind for the Eagles. He's so strong, Sam. I've watched him break through arm tackles like it's absolutely nothing. You think you have him and you don't. You think you can stop him. He runs the cleanest routes. He runs every route on the route tree. He is very, very phenomenal at what he does. And to think that he almost retired this offseason to play baseball, which he's also really good at. Yeah, he was.
I didn't know that at all.
He was drafted by out of college. He was drafted by the Padres, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, most athletes, like most star football players are usually drafted
Yeah.
because there's like 50 rounds. It's insane, but
Yeah, no, he goes and he
yeah,
has like BP with the Phillies all pretty often. Like he
yeah. I've seen
goes
him.
there
I've
and
seen him do that. That's interesting.
he literally was thinking about. I mean, that's his first sport. That's really his love. That's the sport that he grew up playing and always wanted to play. And then he kind of took off at what you call it, Ole
Ole
Miss,
Miss. Yep.
and he went from there. So
Dude, you think that receiving core, DK, him, Elijah Moore, like all on the field at the same time, and like you what you think of, and you mentioned how strong he is. That shirtless pick next to DK Metcalf. Anyone looks small,
yeah,
but like
he's still a
he's
monster
he's
himself. Yeah,
still he's insane, and he's
yeah.
like I don't know how tall he is. I don't think he's super tall. He's certainly not like Megatron
No.
DK tall, but he's a thick dude. Like he is very strong,
Oh.
and just to see him like be able to break tackles and just have his way with guys, it's interesting.
Oh wow, he's a thick
Yeah.
dude and has his way with guys. Sam, you're interesting. He's 6'1", and he's 26
Okay.
years old. Uh, yeah, he's got a lot of time. And just to think about that is he's going off, and there's another guy that could easily be and was the number one wide receiver before he came, which was Devonta Smith. So you have that. I'm just very, very thankful for the Titans
First
for
round
two
pick.
things. So I mean, if the Titans want to give us more, I'll gladly take that. Who was
They
your
draft?
first
You know who
dub?
they drafted with that first round pick? Guy
What
who's
happened?
barely touched the. Who the Titans took with that first round pick?
Who?
Traylon Burks barely touched the field.
Oh, okay, great. I love it.
Yeah,
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 I heard them saying that he was going to be he's
he's good.
AJ
I do
Brown
like him a lot.
2.0. That's what I
I
kept
do
hearing them
like him a
say.
lot. I
Yeah,
mean, there's still time. It's a second year
yeah,
receiver.
of course.
I mean, somewhere you're still hoping for what's his name to pop off, like Arthega Whiteside or
Who's hoping that he pops off
I
somewhere?
don't know, somewhere he's in
Yeah,
the CFL. I
not
don't
me or
know.
any damn Eagles fan hopes he
I'm
pops
just
off anywhere.
I'm kidding.
Not him, not
I
Jalen
was
Rager, not
I
Nelson
was thinking
Aguilar.
Rager too. Yeah, Nelson Aguilar. Still in
Jordan
the league, man.
Matthews just signed. You just got moved. We don't care about none of them. You ain't here.
Jordan
You ain't here.
Matthews. Wow. Yeah, given just a dub out to the Bengals, we talked about it already. I'm not going to spend too much time there, but Joe Burrow, coming out of the bye, this was kind of like the day that if you knew anything about football, like, okay, he got hurt in the preseason,
Mm-hmm.
then got a different injury the first week of the season and was playing through it. Clearly could not push off and throw down the field. I think there may be a trademark for Always Open because Jamar and 7-Eleven been doing a lot of really cool marketing stuff. But
Yeah.
he didn't look like anything was bothering him today. He was able to do what Joe Burrow does really well, like improvise in the pocket, give his receivers time, and he has two of the best in the game. T. Higgins came alive today too, or yesterday too, which is great. But he didn't look. There were some runs that he had. I didn't watch this whole game, just on red zone, but he looked fine. He looked great. He looked like Joe Burrow, and that they're 4-4 now. Certainly not out of it. I think if the playoffs started today, they'd be out of it. But again, there's still a lot of football left. Um, this guy's a killer. We talk about him a lot. So just giving the Bengal team, some props, especially going into San Francisco and beating them.
Solid, solid. I have the Broncos as
Woo.
my next dub for the fact that they were able to beat the Chiefs when we pretty much had them dead in the water. Uh, the the way that they played, uh, I'm just gonna use this as my dub and my L because the Chiefs are an L for me in this one too
Okay.
because there's no way you as the Chiefs should have this letdown. I know the Eagles had the letdown against your Jets. No offense to you. It's just what it is on paper, right? And the Chiefs had this letdown against the Broncos. And it wasn't just a casual letdown. They got beat. They got punched in their mouth throughout that whole game. And for me, it's more telling for the Chiefs than it is for the Broncos because I don't believe the Broncos are going anywhere. But the Chiefs have not looked great. The play calling has looked mysteriously different. But if I remember correctly, Sam, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when Bieniemy was there, they said that it was a bulk of Andy Reid doing the calls. It wasn't really Bieniemy. Bieniemy helped, right? That's what they were saying. Correct? Am I on the right path with that?
Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of narrative storylines out there trying to squander the enemy's role in here, especially
Oh,
after all those
that's
failed
perfect.
interviews.
That's perfect. You're saying that because
Yeah.
Bieniemy's gone. Nagy's now stepped into that spot, and Andy Reid's still there.
Favorite of the
So
podcast, Matt Nagy. Jeez.
so now who was really doing the play calls and having this masterful play calling if now the play calling looks like dog water? Because it really does. If it's not going to Kelsey and Kelsey's not there to bail him out, who is it going to? And I know they believe in these wide receivers getting what's his name? Your former wide receiver back.
Well, Mecole Hardman
Yep. And then you have
MVS and
yep. And
the rookie Rasheed Rice. So I like a
they've
lot.
done nothing. Really.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yep.
If they are not in the
Sky
trade market,
Moore,
yeah, well, they should be in the market for getting a wide receiver. But funny how that payroll thing works. They're not really going to be able to do too much because the person, if I'm them, I'm trying to put all my eggs in the basket for. I'm trying to get Devontae Adams because imagine Patrick Mahomes, Devontae Adams, and Kelsey. Can you imagine how dangerous that would be going forward, Sam?
I mean, Devontae Adams is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah,
he's not Tyreek Hill. He can't do what Tyreek Hill does.
They don't need him.
We've seen that before. But what I'm trying to say is we've seen the best quarterback of this generation with arguably the best pass catching tight end ever. And
not arguably.
No,
he is now.
Yeah, I mean,
he is now.
you pay props to.
He is now.
To Tony Gonzalez and
that's fine.
And everyone.
Sam, you ain't got to be PC. He is that.
No, I've been a fan of Travis Kelce for a very long time.
That's fine.
I'm just trying to,
Yeah, you're trying to be nice, and you don't have to be. He's not the best. I mean, Kelce is the best now, and
no doubt.
That's it.
I don't think there's much argument there. So I mean, we've seen this offense. What I'm trying to say is we've seen this offense with a stud receiver, and then you have these pieces like MVS and Rasheed Rice and whoever else playing this kind of like, what is it, the Y receiver? We're playing in the slot and doing all that stuff. But if they could pull it off, it's interesting.
I don't think they can.
What Devontae, where he's going, what he's doing. I mean, he's still saying he's closer to Aaron Rodgers now than ever. And like, who's going, what's going on in Vegas. They certainly have enough problems.
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting moved tomorrow, but in the off season, do you think Devontae Adams is a Raider in 2024? I don't think so, but there's still a lot of football left to play there.
I think everybody has a price. So when these teams and these owners say they're not going to move off of somebody, everybody has their price. So and that goes for both sides because we saw what happened with Jonathan Taylor. Like he had his price. They said they weren't going to pay it, and then he somehow, some way figured out like this is my price, and it was like okay, and they agreed upon it. So everybody has their price. Depends on what they're going to get for him, and whoever, if they do decide to trade him, which I think that would probably be the best because he clearly does not want to be there. He came there to be with, as I mentioned last week, and when it happened, to be with his former college quarterback, one of his best friends, and Carr. So now that he's gone, this is not what he came there for. He wasn't planning to play with Jimmy G. So, I mean, he's not even playing with Jimmy G now with the injuries anyway. So there's that too. So yeah, I think you definitely move him. But I said a lot about the Chiefs more than anything, but the Broncos, Russell, I'm gonna just take this 1 second to say this. Russell Wilson has in times looked not great. I mean, that happens for every quarterback. But through all the scrutiny, he's actually looked pretty decent this year, especially compared to last year. He's looked fairly decent. I don't know what the numbers are on that, but he's moving the ball way better than he was last year, and I think that should be talked about more, especially how he got drugged through the dirt last year
And
compared to
yeah,
this year.
and a lot went wrong in Denver last year. A lot went wrong at the beginning of this year or this season, right? I have we have a listener who lives in Denver, a friend of mine that I work with, Jenny, and I sent her this because I like to make fun of Russell Wilson, and I sent this to her today, and it's where Russell ranks everywhere. So I don't have actual stats, but he's second with the pass TD to interception ratio, fourth in the league in touchdowns, first in pass touchdowns per attempt, fourth in passer rating, and tied for first in first quarter or fourth quarter comebacks.
Okay.
I don't know what those exact numbers are, but yeah, it's a historically bad defense. We saw it. They gave up 70 points to a great offense, and they've gotten beaten around all year, and it's I can say it's not all on Russell Wilson. He's had moments where he looks really bad. He's certainly not protected in a lot of different ways that he was in Seattle. On the field, off the field, everything. But yeah, he's looked really good, and it was interesting that the Chiefs floated out there yesterday that um, Mahomes was battling the flu, right? And he certainly didn't look sharp. Everyone's allowed to be sick. It sucks. I can't imagine having the flu and playing quarterback, but it's not like these guys aren't used to being under the weather and playing, but a
Yeah.
lot. I heard some crazy Patrick Mahomes stats that I wrote down. 20. He was 25-0 against playing teams that were 2 games or more under 500.
Yeah.
Not anymore. And this is the 16th, or no, the Broncos just snapped a 16-game losing streak to the Chiefs. So yeah, I mean, like,
I think this is also
everyone's
his
allowed to
first
have it
time
back in.
losing against the AFC West too. Patrick
Yeah,
Mahomes.
yeah, that on the road,
Yep,
road
on the
too.
road. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, crazy stats, but they're all meant to be broken. Again, I'm not putting up the sirens for Patrick Mahomes or the Chiefs. I think this was just a perfect storm of bad. But now they got to pack up and go and play in Germany uh, against the Dolphins. So it's going to be a really quick test for them to see what's up.
Okay, with that said, because there's more than enough talked about the Chief, way too much. Let's get into your last dub while I go and get some water. So have fun with that.
There you go. All right. Yeah, it's the Titans, and it's just for a guy that I wasn't really high on in the draft process. I don't think you were either. I know when we bring our friend Dave on, he absolutely did not like Will Levis either. I'm not going to act like I liked him, but he had a game, man. He came into this game where Mike Vrabel said basically it's going to be play the hot hand between Malik Willis and Will Levis. So that's something you don't really see at the pro level. That's something more for college. All right, we'll see what quarterback is, how each drive is doing. And Malik got a really bad snap that went through his hands, and we really didn't see him after that to start the game. But Will Levis was out there like throwing dimes, 3 touchdowns to D Hop, his first touchdowns in 9 games for DeAndre Hopkins. A lot of concern, like, is this offense broken? Okay, now on a short week going into Pittsburgh, a tough place to play. Will Levis certainly had a game, looked really good. Again, the throws that I saw were really good. So again, kind of a team at a crossroads here. Excuse me. Like, didn't expect much of this team going into the season, but now it's just kind of an interesting storyline. He's going to come down to earth, Will Levis, but of course. But it was just a really impressive rookie performance from a guy that was not really loved through the draft process, but was still the second pick in the second round in April. So just wanted to point that out. So because of that, Titans get the dub for me.
Okay. Um, I think this is a true testament to using your weapons. DeAndre Hopkins was basically sitting on that team, turning into a corpse. They were not throwing him the ball, and it makes no sense. You get the ball to your playmakers any way that you possibly can. Scheme it up to get him in a wide receiver screen. If it's a tight end, do hook routes, get your guys out in the flat, do something to get your guys to be in a position to be able to catch the ball and make a play and allow them to do something after the catch. That's yak for some people that don't know. But I mean, I wish the Falcons would do that with Pitts, but clearly they don't know. They do a tight end screen with the
Donu.
the
Yeah.
second tight end and third tight end and have Pitts blocking. Make it make sense for me. Don't know. But yeah, no, what Will Levis did, it was a beautiful moment. I think the best part of the whole situation, like, yes, everybody, he got the win for his first time on the field and whatnot, but just the embrace that he had with his family.
That was
I thought
cool.
that was absolutely cool
Did you hear the
to see that.
presser after?
That's a big moment. That's a big moment and big time for you to have your first touchdown, and then you get to spend time with your family. Your family's there, and you get to embrace them and just have and share that moment. Like, that's something that they'll never forget, regardless of how long he stays in the league. And I'm obviously sure if he can play like that, and at least give more games like that than less games like that. I mean, he could be around for quite some time. And then this is something that he can always look back on. I mean, even if he's not in the league, he's got the footage of seeing that. So,
Did you hear the press conference after?
I did not.
I'll paraphrase here. He basically was like, I'm one of 11. He shouted out Malik Willis multiple times. Again, like it was like one of the first snaps of the game, really bad snap. I mentioned it when you got up for a second and kind of didn't see too much of Malik Willis after that, and rightfully so. But the guy was humble and said all the right things. And again, yeah, you're gonna play like that. There's it'll be fun. Again, quick test going into Pittsburgh on a short week. Um, we'll see there. But it was I just want to point it out because it was not someone that I really liked through the draft process
Well,
too
point
much.
something else out for me, Sam. Point out your L here. Let's get right into that.
Look, I'm not sitting here gloating because I watched, and my son and daughter and my wife, one of the worst football games I've ever seen. There were like 25 combined punts.
It was so bad that both the Jets and the Giants said, we know how bad it is, and we want to give you free football so you guys can watch more of it. We are so appreciative of that. But continue.
Yeah, it was bad. But my L goes to the Giants. You kind of mentioned some of it already. Down to their third string quarterback. Trust me, I understand. And I keep on calling this guy Danny DeVito. I think it's Tommy DeVito, right? I saw him. I saw a couple preseason games where they played, and everyone seemed to really like his makeup, like who he is. But they clearly were not letting him do anything, throw. And when he did throw, obviously he was not completing passes. The team finished with -9 receiving yards, which I mentioned that to my wife earlier today, and she was like, how's that even possible? And I've said, I've seen, obviously you've seen drives go for negative yards, but to complete a professional football game with the negative passing yards is a very hard thing to do. Saquon ran the ball like 36 times, and it was the most rushes from a running back since like Frank Gore, like 7 years ago or something like that. So it
Interesting.
was a rough day. It was a windy, cold, rainy day.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, my football team was pretty not great there too, but I will say I was impressed with the, Zach Wilson in a 1 minute offense kind of thing, except for he still doesn't throw to the sidelines. And he had that gaff to end the first half in Denver trying to get that quick spike. It didn't work. And I was so nervous, but he was able to spike the ball with 1 second left to get Greg Zerline to tie the game. But this if you're Brian Dable, if you're Joe Shane and this Giants team, it's just like, what is going on here? You know, you mentioned already you didn't think this team was you thought this team was going to regress. I did too. I thought they got lucky in a lot of ways last year. I think Daniel Jones played over his head, but it's interesting. We got the report this morning that Daniel Jones is cleared the play now.
Hmm.
Tyrod Taylor is thankfully fine. He was released from the hospital today, actually. So prayers up to him. I hope he's all right.
Let's talk about T-Mobile for a second. This man gets a punctured lung. That was in
from
San
his
Diego.
own
Yeah, from
from
his
his own
own
training staff.
training
Yeah,
staff. Every time he gets a chance to start, he always gets hurt, and it kills me because
with
he
the
gets these
Browns too.
opportunities, and then it's
Yeah,
just like he's just knocked out of the game, or something happens, and it's just like this guy. It's not. We can't say he hasn't gotten his opportunities because he clearly has.
yeah.
He just can't stay healthy, and it's just like his luck of the draw is terrible, like absolutely terrible. I feel for the guy because he could be something. This would have been another great opportunity because the Giants ain't going nowhere, and if he played well, he could have easily been like, they could have been like, you know what, we're just gonna have you play for the rest of the time. I'm sure they wouldn't have done that with Danny Ducks and all the money that they paid him. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of is what it is. I just don't. As you said a second ago, I said it during our preview for the season. I believe that the Giants had a favorable schedule last year. I hate when people talk about that because they said that about my birds and they went to the Super Bowl, but whatever. Um,
It's okay to have a easy
you
schedule.
don't make the schedule. You have to play the
You
schedule that's
gotta
given to
play.
you.
You gotta
You
win,
don't.
man.
Yeah, it is what it is. But I knew just with that, I knew it kind of inflated what they were, and the potential that they had, and they just aren't a good team. They have some great players on their team. Like there's definitely some
Thibodeau
really good
is
players
a
on that
monster,
team.
man.
Thibodeau, Saquon. I love Adoree Jackson, aka ASAP Rocky.
Thanks
They
for the
got
win,
some.
Adoree, by the
Yeah,
way. Sorry.
yeah, that helped you out a lot. But
Yeah.
there's some really good players on that team. Leonard Williams prior to getting traded, but it's just not coming together. And sometimes you can have all those pieces and not coming together. It's just not happening now. But I think the main person that needs to be questioned is definitely Dable. And I don't know the GM's name. What's the GM's
Joe
name?
Shane.
Joe Shea.
Yeah. Shane. Yeah.
Shane. Because they need to be questioned on what did you see that said we need to extend Daniel Jones? I know we've had the conversation of like, who else could they have gotten? I would have been like, you know what? I'd much rather play with somebody else and tank and get to the point of trying to be in the market for a Caleb Williams or anybody that's coming out of this draft quarterback wise, because it seems like it would be an upgrade. But it is what it is, Sam.
Yeah, it's head scratcher for sure, and I'm sure there's a lot of Giant fans listening. We know a lot of them that are questioning the same thing,
I'm
and
sure they're
it's
not questioning it. They know what it is, which is they've been extremely quiet this whole year.
look, the offensive line for as long as I can remember for this team has been Achilles heel, no pun there, but and it clearly is now. You sign a guy you drafted at one point, Justin Pugh, and now he's off the
Pew
couch
pew.
playing left tackle for you. So it's just kind of like, they've wasted two number one picks or first round picks on tackles.
Yeah.
It's it's been a rough. It's not like they haven't tried to fix it. It's just it's been rough going, and at least they have their first round pick.
It's true. It's true. We both had an L for the Niners. We already talked about the Niners as well as the Chiefs. So our L's have already been exhausted at this point. I don't think we need to dive any deeper into that. So I'll just get directly into the power rankings for
Pew
this
pew.
week. So last week I had the Eagles at 1, Niners at 2, Chiefs at 3, Ravens at 4, Jags at 5. This week, there has been some changes. It's still the same 5 teams. And the 5th team, just kind of the way that they played, which may shock people, and I think could understand why I would probably be interchangeable for me, is I have the Chiefs as the 5th team. And they were ranked 3rd last week. but I almost want to put the Cowboys there, because of the way that they played. Now, the reason why I'm keeping them there is because I've seen what the Chiefs do, and they normally don't have back-to-back losses, which is why I believe that they are going to beat the Dolphins, but I don't think it's going to be easy. But I do feel, Sam, to be fair, that if they lose against the Dolphins, the Chiefs, to me, are going to be in a world of trouble because this is something, and this is crazy because this is the best defense that I've seen Patrick Mahomes have on that team.
Totally, absolutely.
Um, I just offensively though they kind of are just not it. And I know he can will them through. It's kind of like almost spit an image of what Tom did in New England. Didn't really have the greatest receiving core. I mean, had a great tight end, and then it's kind of like the same thing. And
Yeah.
still kind of
Aside
able
from
just to
Randy
go right.
Moss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Aside from that, no,
cor-
and that was what 1 or 2 years. Like
correct. Yeah,
aside from that,
yeah.
it's been a mess. Yeah.
I mean, Devontae Adams could be his Randy Moss. You never know. So it could all play out the way that I'm kind of giving it to you guys. But
Straight cash on.
Chiefs at 5, at 4 in the Niners. What's going on with them right now? I this they have a bye week this week. So going into the bye with a loss, I'm sure they did not want that. I mean, I'm sure they don't want any losses, but going into the bye week with that, they're going to have time to get healthier. Give Trent Williams some time, give Debo some time. I don't know when they're expected to come back, but I think that could definitely help them. But again, I want to see now what Brock looks like for the rest of the year because we've now seen him get smacked in the mouth. What can you do? Because you've essentially been a game manager, and that's all the Niners really have needed. And we've seen that, Sam. So now let's see what can really happen when
There's
you come
nothing
back
wrong
in the
with
latter half
being
of the season.
a game manager. There's nothing
Yes.
wrong with it. I mean, up
No, I'm
until
not.
yeah, no,
I don't. When I
I
say
know you
that,
feel this way.
no. Yeah,
No,
I
I
know
know.
that. But I'm saying to other people when I say that, I don't think game manager is bad. You don't necessarily need somebody that is going uh to sling the ball down the field. You just need somebody that's going to keep you in the game, especially if you have talented players on the offensive side and you have a talented defense. You don't really need to do too much. We live in this sports world that the quarterback has to do something. It has to be that guy because that's what we've seen. They're the leader of the team, and I don't think that necessarily needs to happen. Again, the Ravens won with Trent Williams as their quarterback.
Trent Dilfer,
The
yeah,
Eagles
yeah.
won with Nick Foles as their quarterback. Right? It's people have stepped in and played and won the Super Bowl that you wouldn't have thought were the people to actually do that. So it all really depends. But anyway, 3, the Jags keep winning. Um, and
Is it 5 in a row?
I think so. They're 6-2, and they continue to do what
Five
they
in a
have to
row.
do. It's as I want to say it's quietly doing it. Like if you're watching it and you're watching the highlights, you obviously are seeing them win, but it's quietly because nobody's really talking about them. They're talking about all the other teams, the Niners, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the next team that we're going to talk about too, the Ravens, and the Jags are just cruising under the radar. So they're sitting pretty at 3. Uh, I feel that these two teams are kind of interchangeable. The only reason that I have the Ravens at 2 is because they have Lamar. And the way that Lamar has played, they're doing all this and they're winning. And OBJ hasn't even scored a touchdown yet this season. Not one touchdown yet. Um, that I don't know if that's a detriment to his Achilles, his knees, and his body, and being injured so much, or just not being able to get him. But I know once he gets that, I feel like it's gonna turn him up. But Lamar has absolutely been phenomenal. He's 100% in the middle of that MVP race. Uh, he's got to be in the top 3 at this point in that conversation. You can put him wherever you want to. I'm not here to argue that. We can have an argument later. Um, but the Ravens look good. They look really, really, really good. And they are not winning the prettiest games. But again, a dub's a dub. That's all that matters. And at 1, because they're the only team that sits at 7-1 now, or period, is the Eagles. They have a lot to clean up. It seems that the Commanders are their kryptonite because they are the team in the past 3 years that have played them down to the wire, damn near every game that they played them. And Jalen's 2 losses during the regular season have only been to the Commanders. So he's 26-2 since starting, and he's only lost to the Commanders. So I don't know what goes on there, but on the flip side of that, Jalen had one of his best offensive days in his career, and he's doing this on a bum knee at that. It helps to have A.J. Brown going off the way he does and Devontae Smith, even though people will say that that's the only reason it happens, but he has to throw the ball. He has to. He's not even running right now, Sam. So it's saying something. He's not even running right now and still scoring touchdowns. This team is defensively, they have to shore up that back end, the secondary. I know they just got Byard and they plugged him in, and there's a couple of pieces that are down. So they need to shore up that back end. And they've also need to make sure that if they're not getting the pressure up front from that D line, they need to figure something out, because it was the problem in that Commanders game. They were not able to sack him or touch him until the fourth quarter when Hassan Reddick basically closed out the game. And that's a problem.
Which is ironic, because Sam Howell's on pace to be sacked more than any quarterback ever.
Yes.
Because that line is a turnstile. So, that was really surprising. That they get off a sack at all?
Huh? Did they get a sack?
Did they get? Yeah.
Yeah, Hassan Reddick. He closed it out in the fourth. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. But and one thing too, I saw they lost 2 fumbles inside the 3.
Yes, Jalen Hurts on the tush push, or excuse me, the brotherly shove. He lost it there, and it was a fumble in the exchange between him and Kelsey. He got the ball and then he bounced it off the thigh. He ran it into the thigh of I think it was Kelsey. I remember who it was. And then Gainwell, which, for the love of God, stop giving Gainwell the goddamn ball, please. Please stop. You got Rashad Penny. Please put him in. Sit Gainwell down. Gainwell is not gaining well, okay? Just sit him down. I'm tired of seeing him. And it blows my mind, Sam, when they get down, they have Swift run the ball all the way down the field, and they get into the red zone. They're like, you know what? QB sneaks and Gainwell. This is what we should do now. This is what we should do when we're in the red zone. Stop doing that. Just please stop doing that. But whatever.
I feel like Gainwell was even the goal line back last year, right? With Miles Sanders. Like, they gave him the ball a lot.
He definitely regressed 10. From last year. Yeah. They did have some
after the first game, I thought this was Gainwell's backfield. After that first game, he ran really well.
Well, he was slated before they traded for DeAndre Swift. He was slated to be the number 1 back. Right. And last year in the red zone, surprisingly, the guy that got a lot of touches in the red zone, which is not talked about, and he hasn't really touched the ball at all this year, is Boston Scott. And he's not touching the ball. So that's somebody that you should probably put in the mix because he can run as well. But that's neither here or there. And that's my power ranking for this week.
Love it,
Sam.
I like it. It's hard when you have just 5 spots and you have a lot of good teams. I mean, you can make an argument that the Cowboys could be, anywhere from, in my opinion, like 3 to 5 to 6. I have no problem with your list. I usually don't. At the top, you tried to tease some controversy, but I don't have any. You're good.
Thanks. I appreciate that. You want to run down our records of our picks so far before we get into our actual picks of the week?
Yeah, we rebounded off of a really bad week 7. I think we were both under 500.
Yeah,
but we came back 9-6 for me. You were 10-5. Our friends at Instagram, they need some work. They were 8-4, and there were a lot of ties this week. They were 8-4-3. So that brings us to and I looked, it wasn't just like we had like 4 votes and it was split. Like there were a good amount of votes. So it was very interesting.
Okay.
But here we are for the season. 69 wins for Instagram. Again, I'm not counting those ties. So total wins there. I am 72-56. So that is. But you got a 3-game lead. You're 75-53. You caught 1 more game this week. So like the last 3 weeks, I feel like you've gained a game on me, and we were pretty. There you go. All right, cool.
You're welcome.
That's it.
You're welcome.
Week 9 though. Here
It's
we go.
we'll see what happens. So this week 9, teams that are on buys, Niners, they need it, Lions, Broncos, and Jags. So Thursday night football, Titans and Steelers. Sam, you have the Titans. I have the Steelers. Quick, why do you have the Titans?
I don't know. I don't really, because Kenny Pickett's not going to play, and it's going to be Mitchell Trubisky probably.
Okay.
I have no idea. You know, Will Levis will turn back into a pumpkin, I'm sure, but I
Maybe.
don't.
I
Who
mean, we
knows?
don't know. I mean, he could be
I
good,
don't
and
know.
we don't know what we're getting from the Steelers. I mean, they seem to play. They seem to be a second half team anyway. So who knows if they can put them away early? We'll see. I have the Steelers just because I don't know. I don't know what they're going to get, and I feel like Mike Tomlin's teams just don't lose too many back to
I
back
love it.
games.
You
So
listen to us for our sports knowledge and opinions, and we're just like, bro, I don't know.
there's some games that you just really don't
Yeah,
know, and you just kind of gotta wing it. This one is also one that we don't know, but that's for a good reason because it's in Germany. I'm assuming this is a 9 o'clock game again.
9:30
9:30.
a.m.
Okay.
Eastern.
Uh, Dolphins at Chiefs. It is in Germany. Is in Munich, if I remember correctly.
I think
Um,
so.
it's Sam has the Dolphins. I have the Chiefs. I have the Chiefs because, as I said earlier, I don't see the Chiefs losing back to back games. They don't really do that. But with that being said, the Dolphins play really, really good football, but they've been tested against a good team. Now this is going to be another test for them to see if they can actually. They've been tested against two good teams, so let's see if they can. If third time's the charm. Why the Dolphins?
I I just think they're playing better football right now. Again, I'm not
Agreed.
worried about the Chiefs. I think this may be one of the better overseas games we've ever had. I think
Mm-hmm.
because usually they're kind of like one really good team and then one like okay. But I found out I heard that they're going to Munich like today
Oh, this is
or
the first time you heard
tomorrow.
about it,
No,
or you talking about
no,
that the teams are
no,
leaving today?
Miami.
Okay, got you,
Sorry, Miami is leaving today. I
Okay,
don't know what the Chiefs' plans are, but that
that's
I thought
smart.
that was
Get there,
yeah
get acclimated,
interesting.
and get some rest, and go from there. That's very very smart. And my take the Jags. Something out of the playbook of the Jags. They live over there. Follow what they
Yeah,
do.
and we
Uh,
saw that the Bills didn't do that, and
and see what happens.
they were not ready. Yeah,
Correct. Seahawks at Rams. We both have Seahawks. Cardinals at Browns. You have the Cards. I have the Browns. Why the hell do you have the Cards?
they've kind of been playing some tough games. Look, Kyler's not. He's still on IR, but he's been practicing in full.
Yeah,
I think they're gonna hold him off. I think for as long as they can, for a lot of different reasons. But maybe this is like Josh Dobbs. Like, okay, well, I'm still the starting quarterback, so that's my narrative that I'm playing with. This Browns defense has been really good, uh, but we don't have enough time to talk about Deshaun Watson,
Deshaun
and we
Watson. I knew
won't
it.
today.
I knew.
But it's this Browns team hasn't really they've been a little up and down offensively for me. The defense has been pretty good, but that's
Yeah,
just my hunch. That's
that's
the
the only
narrative in
reason
my
that I
head.
give them the benefit of the doubt is because they have arguably the defensive player of the year on their team playing out of his mind and Miles Garrett. So uh, I have the Browns, but I feel like it's just going to be. I feel like it's a field goal game, so I think this can go
Yeah,
either way. Uh, Bucks at Texans. We both have Texans. Bears at Saints. Both have Saints. Commanders at Patriots. We both have Commanders, but I'm not going to lie to you. I almost went Patriots. Vikings at Falcons. I think this was an easy one after Kirk going down, but this would be the surprise game and wouldn't be surprised if somehow somebody the Vikings won this. But the
I
Falcons.
think I think Ritter's in concussion protocol too.
Oh, okay,
So
that's not great.
I know Tyler Heineke played the second half of the game. I didn't
Okay,
watch much of it, but um, so that's interesting. Maybe that offense that we've been pounding the table for Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, maybe two of the three of them could have a decent game. Now that
maybe.
there's
Maybe if they throw the ball to Kyle Pitts and they don't have him
yeah
blocking for a tight end screen for the second
other
tight
time.
end,
Yeah, yeah.
that'd be great.
Good
Uh,
point. What do you
Rams
know?
at Packers. You have the Packers, and I have the Rams. You have asterisk next to it. Why?
I think Matt Stafford broke his thumb, right? His right thumb, or it's like really, it's not. I don't know if it's broken, but it's not good. So I will say he's healthy, that's great. We've been talking about these receivers all year. But if he's not, could easily
Well,
be
we saw what Matthew Stafford did in Detroit when he messed up his hand and continued to
yeah.
play. So, regardless of what he did to his hand would have to be off of his body for me to say he's not playing.
Look,
So,
Jordan Love's not lighting the world on fire either. I'm
no.
not,
So that's another reason why I'm definitely
again, I
going
have
with
no
him.
freaking idea. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, sorry, Jordan. Hopefully you can turn around. Colts at Panthers, both have Colts. Giants at Raiders, we both have Raiders. Cowboys at Eagles, we both have the Eagles. Go
This was a
Birds.
tough one though. I'm not
It
gonna
is a
lie.
tough, very, very close one, but I'm never picking the Cowboys in that game. That would never happen.
Yeah, home field.
Sunday night football, Bills at Bengals.
This
It's
is
going to be a
also gonna
close
be a
one
great game.
too. Bengals, unless even the games that we thought were going to be close ones this year, they've been blowouts. So we'll see how that goes. And then Monday night football, Chargers at Jets. Sorry, Sam, your Jets are probably going to get blown out. Probably
Yeah,
not
that's
though.
fine.
Probably
Hey,
not though. I don't
if
think they're going
Justin
to get blown out.
Herbert plays like he did last night,
Well, yeah,
he
and if the
looked
Jets play like they played
good.
yesterday, yeah, absolutely, the
Yeah, yeah,
Chargers are
that's
going to blow
fair.
them out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I
Hey, but what's the variance for Brandon Staley to screw something up? Even though they were rolling last night, I was just kind of like, when does this happen? When does that, like, what's the probability of him screwing something up? So that's always in the back of your mind if you're watching a Charger game. So who knows?
Brandon Staley is not the greatest. So yeah, there's
No.
that. Real quick, Sam put this in here because he wanted to have fun, and I'm Mr. Not Have Fun, but we're gonna be quick about this. It's
Oh, you're
Halloween
surprising me.
candy draft.
Ooh,
Round one, number one, immediately that has to go for me is Reese's.
I
I
gave you the first pick.
that's Reese's. It's no matter what.
Yeah,
What do you got for your first round?
you could just give me Reese's. That'd be fine.
Okay, same.
I would trade. I would Ricky Williams my draft right now. Like I would trade you all of my picks just for Reese's. I don't.
Yeah, I can't
That's
give up
it.
my Reese's. I'm sorry, that's my
That's
favorite.
fine. I'll go real quick. I'll go Kit Kats then. I like Kit Kats.
Okay. Round two, you go ahead. Who you got? What you got?
Oh yeah. Hmm. Peanut M&Ms.
Ooh, interesting. I would
Yeah.
not have that anywhere on my list.
Interesting. Okay.
I think it's Snickers for me.
Oh,
There.
Snickers is a good one. How did I forget about that?
I don't know. You messed up. You're on the spot. You just got messed up.
I did. I'm not even
Round
thinking about it.
three for me, I would have to say. Ooh, I'm trying to think of Halloween candy. I love Milky Way, so I'll say Milky
Ooh.
Ways too.
My son had his first Milky Way the other day.
Oh,
We were at
phenomenal.
Legoland doing like a trick or treat thing,
Mm-hmm.
and he was
Yep, it
like
changed his
his
life.
face. I wish I had it on video. There, I was gonna say Milky Way. I'm gonna go Twizzlers.
Oh, that's it. Damn it. Damn it. I forgot about the
That's good.
Twizzlers.
It's a good
That's
one.
a good one. That's a
We
great
could
one.
we could trade. We could trade offline if you want to make some trades.
Uh, yeah, the only one I would
Yeah.
trade for that. The only thing I'm getting rid of here is the Milky Way, and I'm not getting rid of those Reese's. I know you're trying to get the Reese's. It's not happening, Sam. It's not happening. You can
I'll
get.
trade you. I'll trade you a pick for next year's draft too. We'll talk about it offline.
Well, how about this? I'll trade you now so you can speak about the World Series. How about that?
I'd be too busy eating Reese's. Dude,
Well,
have you watched any of the World Series?
I watched a little the other day. I really haven't been watching anything, to
Yeah,
be
it's
honest.
been
The last thing I would say I sat down and watched more of was the what you call it, the Diamondbacks and the Phillies. That was a great
yeah.
series. The energy was different. But I do know it's tied up. I know the first game came down. It was a walk off, correct? If I remember the first game.
Corey Seager hit a home run in the bottom of the ninth to tie it, and
Mm,
then Adolis Garcia, I think, in the 11th, hit a walk off. Yeah, it
okay.
was it was an electric game. It was really fun to watch. You have this team. I mean, we've been talking about these teams all year. You have a team like the Rangers that can just put up 8 runs in an inning by blinking, right? Like all of a sudden, it's here it is, and then you have a Diamondbacks team that loves to play smaller ball, doesn't have like huge home run hitters, and will run any chance they get. They have the rookie of the year and Corbin Carroll, and pretty solid pitching. But so it's tied at 1. Game 3 is tonight, Monday. 2 is tomorrow, and Game 5 is Wednesday, and then if necessary, they pick back up the end of the month, the end of the week on Friday and Saturday. But it's been a really fun series. Game 2 on Saturday night was a blowout, 9-1 Arizona. So tied up here, Max Scherzer against a rookie who's Branden, who's had like a up and down rookie year so far. So I'm even on the road. I'm going Max Scherzer here. I don't see how you wouldn't, but it's been a fun series to watch and root for. It was a cool moment of George W. Bush throwing out the first pitch to Pudge. I thought that was really cool. And Jeter, the whole Jeter back and forth from the 2001 World Series where he came out after 9/11 and Jeter was, you remember that story where Jeter was like, "Are you going to throw it from the mound?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "You have to.
Yeah, there's no way.
Don't bounce it.
Yeah.
They're going to boo you."
Absolutely.
So Jeter got to interview him before the game, which was really cool. Just a cool nostalgic moment there. But I have the Texas winning at some point. I don't know. It's been a surprisingly good series. I've been a fan. So
okay. All right. I mean, I'll probably watch some. I saw something about was it Tommy Pham? He didn't steal, or right? He didn't take the extra base and to allow his teammate to get something. I was reading something about that.
Yeah, Tommy Pham went 4 for 4, I think.
Okay.
And had the opportunity on Saturday to go, to be up again. And he asked, in a blowout game, he asked Torey Lovullo, the Diamondbacks manager, to pinch hit for him for Jace Peterson so he could get a World Series at bat,
that's commendable. Super commendable.
And Tommy Pham's been on this team for 2 months. 2 months. He got traded from the Mets.
I mean, he lucked up in this situation. So
yeah,
there's that. Just kind of like the Warriors lucked up and getting CP3 on this offseason. So we're going to get right into some NBA here. CP3, for the first time in his 19-year Hall of Fame career, because he will be a Hall of Famer, is coming off of the bench. So I know we had our predictions for our championship or our awards last week, and I didn't have him as a sixth man because I didn't know if he was going to be coming off the bench or not. If he remains on the bench for the rest of the season and coming off the bench, he's going to be the sixth man of the year. I'm just telling you that right now. It's definitely going to happen. I'm intrigued to see how that's going to go, but I mean, I think we could start to see the decline when he was still with the Phoenix Suns, that he wasn't the CP3 of old. Like he's still a point guard. A point guard is always going to be a point guard, but he has too many injuries. And as we always know, it's his hamstring, and that sidelines him. And that's been more prominent as he's gotten up in age. As we know, that's what happens anyway. But I think that was also the downfall of that constructed Suns team. So now I'm curious to see how this plays out here. I mean, you still got Steph being Steph, so we'll see what happens.
Tortured the Kings the other night, right? It's just, man, it's still playing at a high level. They got CP3. I'm assuming a lot of that was to just get off of Jordan Poole's contract.
Yeah.
And, all the drama there, and they clearly sided with Draymond and the team there. No surprise. Yeah, I don't know how many games CP3 plays, and you may use the whole, he's almost 40 and needs to rest, and you want him and need him in crunch time and, in April or whatever, but he, it's interesting because he's in that like LeBron mode, right? Where like they're so freaking smart and they understand the game of basketball better than you or I ever will, but they're just very methodical and slow with the ball, and that's just Steve Kerr's never coached that way. So it is he's going to be playing off the ball more. Certainly give him more opportunities. It'll be interesting to see, but yeah, if they can keep him healthy and he can give you the good moments you saw in Phoenix, it's it's a nice piece off the bench for this team that could always use more depth, right?
Everybody can use depth. And seeing the Warriors, I mean, like I said, the Warriors are doing what the Warriors are always going to do. In recent memory, they haven't started out the season hot, but they are around at the end of the year. But Steph is still Steph. He's had Dylan Brooks doing whatever type of jumping all over the place. He's a buffoon, and I can't stand him, and I cannot. But speaking of this buffoon that is Dylan Brooks, he decided to open his mouth again as if we all cared what he actually had to say. And he said that Wimby, so Richard Wembanyama,
I've
he
heard of
said
him.
he said he's really tall. That's it. Um, Nobody asked you for your opinion. That's number one, because nobody cares what Dylan Brooks has to say outside
About
of probably
anything.
Dylan Brooks' friends and family. Nobody cares what you have to say. Um, I'm just going to be very blatantly obvious or honest about him because I just really could do without him. I don't pray on anybody's downfall, but if he would have went to China in the offseason, I would have been okay with it, Sam. I would have been okay
It
with
was
it.
I feel like in Memphis it was addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
letting him walk to Houston. Because okay, yeah. Wembanyama has gotten insane amount of hype. He has all the makings and tools to be a generational type of talent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he is 7'4". You're right, Dylan Brooks. You said something correct. He's very tall. He's one of the
He is.
taller players to ever play in this league.
Yeah.
And he's also 19. He's got a lot to work on. And he had spurts of a really nice couple games. But this Spurs team is not very good, and they've gotten blown out, I think, in every game.
They're a young team. And they just gotta build that team chemistry. There's a lot of new young players. I mean, there's second-year players on that team. They're a very, very young team, but they have one of the greatest coaches to ever coach in NBA history, and Popovich. Pop is definitely going to get them right, and I'm just gonna sit here for the ride, and I hope he dunks on Dylan Brooks 5 times in the same game. Uh, you have here, is the league's new resting policy working? And you put an actual link to this. Now, I don't know if it's working, but I want to see
Will
the
it work?
players out there more.
Yeah.
And we literally have, in a few days, literally on Friday, starts the in-season tournament. So I don't know if it's working. I think it's too early to see.
Yeah, I agree.
If it's working as of yet, but I do believe we're going to see if it does. I'm just more so intrigued about that tournament. You know how amped I've been about. I suggested an in-season tournament several times on this podcast. I'm
Adam
happy
Silver's a
that
listener,
yeah,
so
he
he
might
clearly
be.
heard you.
He might be. But I'm very thankful that we get to see this. I think I sent it to you what the courts look like.
Yeah,
Everybody
it
has a
looks cool.
different court, which is super, super dope. I'm intrigued to see the Knicks court because it's all orange. And I'm not a Knicks fan, but I want to see how that looks because the Knicks do have some of the dopest colors, period. But yeah, I guess we'll see. I'd say let's see at All-Star break how it really plays out.
I agree. I think it was more of a question of like, because we didn't get to really talk about this with all
Yeah.
the ramping up the football that we've had. Maybe what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it could work? Look, a quick rundown of it is, and I'll just read the bullet points from Branden. You were referencing the press release. I just dropped it, dropped in the agenda here, but multiple star players unavailable. So these are kind of things that like, unless the team has demonstrated a approved reason for a star player getting rest or not playing, that they need to comply with these rules. National TV and in-season tournament games must ensure that star players are available. Home road balance. Again, you had a situation where on the second game of a back-to-back, Jimmy Butler was in Minnesota and didn't play, and the Timberwolves fans just kept chanting, "We want Jimmy." The Heat lost that game, but it's just kind of one of those situations where it's not necessarily get rid of the back-to-backs. You know, I in a way, if look, I don't think you should, but I'm saying you're curtailing so much crap to make sure that Kawhi Leonard plays 60 games a year or LeBron or whoever. Like And they've already added so many extra days off into the schedule and expanded the season at least that way. You know, I don't know what much more you can do.
Yes, you do. They're gonna find them. It's gonna start to happen. Is exactly what's gonna happen because
Sure,
you
yeah,
hit people where their pockets are. It's gonna change things. If you're not playing because it's saying that you're resting because it's the second half of a back to back. They're gonna start finding essentially because they're gonna be like, okay, well, we gave you a chance to do the right thing. You're not doing the right thing. These fans of yours are paying money to see you, and they're losing out on an opportunity. Because I wouldn't be surprised if somehow, some way, if it hasn't happened already, that a fan has sued for not seeing like a player. Like, I spent all this money to go see this player, flew across the country, and then the player rested. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
come on, like this is crazy. Like, if you're not injured, it's different. And then obviously people are going to start faking injuries and stuff like that. I don't know what you do. Maybe that is the move. Don't have back to backs. I don't really know what it is, but I really would love to see players actually play and have the mentality of what Kobe actually had, which was I play because that exact sentiment that I said, that this may be
Yeah,
the only kid's game to see me play, and I want them to see me play. I wish
it's
everybody
hard,
had that
especially
mentality, but they don't.
yeah,
So
yeah. And when you're playing across the conference, like to the other conference, you get one home game and one away game. So it's
yeah,
like, example, LeBron's coming to New York, New and Brooklyn, like Manhattan and Brooklyn twice
yep,
this year. That's it. If you live in the tri-state area and you want to see LeBron James or whoever, that's it.
yep,
That's if you want to see Victor Wembanyama, and you live in New York, you got two chances unless you want to go to Boston or Philly. So
correct.
it's hard. Games are expensive. I mean,
They're not cheap. They're not cheap at all. Sam, real quick before we get out of here, uh, what are your thoughts on? And I said quick, Sam. What are your thoughts on Michigan State stealing the scandal, the sign stealing scandal, or Michigan? Excuse me.
or
Sorry.
Michigan.
Yeah.
Obviously I think this needs a little more time to talk about. I just noticed that we haven't talked about it. Look, if sign stealing is a part of sports
It is.
to a degree, but I think when you go to the lengths that the University of Michigan or people associated with the university have gone to gain that advantage, then that's something you have to look at, right? Like when you're using video and you're using all of these other methods aside from just staring at the other sideline or trying to decipher that, you know, it's
Well,
well,
I'll stop you right there because if you're first off, if you're not cheating or trying to cheat, then you're not trying to win. It's a
sure,
known slogan in sports. If you're not
yeah,
cheating, you're not trying to
yeah,
win. That's number one.
I don't disagree with that.
Number two, to the video portion. So watching the video of the actual team play the week prior to, if somebody's there recording it, it's essentially the same thing. I believe that there's something more that they're not talking about, that they haven't shared with us yet, because everything that they have shared with us is elementary thus far. They have not gone in depth. So it makes me believe that there's something deeper that they're not talking about, because it's not an issue because it happens, and it has happened for years, that people are recording games, watching games, doing things to get the advantage, to see what the play calls are. I mean, you watch what college football is changing to. There's three quarterbacks on the roster that are wearing three different color suits and hats, and they're throwing up three different signs, and you have to try to figure it out. Chip Kelly's team, where you have signs, and one was Mike Greenberg, and they're holding up, and like you got to try to figure out like what this play is, right? So if you can figure that out and decipher it, that's great. But here's the issue still. You can figure out the play, you can know the play is coming. Can you still stop it? Prime example, Sam. What is the most predictable play in football right now?
A
The
play
brotherly
action.
shove.
Oh, that. Yeah. Well, I mean, situationally, yeah, absolutely.
It's the most, you know what's going to happen. You know it's
Yeah.
coming, and you still can't stop it, right? Everybody's watched, try to do their own iteration. They've had film of doing it. They're trying to see the stuff, and now what do they do this week? They line up like they're going to do the brotherly shove, and then they hand it off, and Swift runs it in, right?
They
So
put guys in motion now.
You can think that you know what's going to do by watching it, but you still got to stop it. And if you can't stop it, what are you going to do? So that's why I believe, Sam, I think what we're getting right now is the general public. I think we're getting surface, but I think there's more behind it. And that is why I really haven't said anything about it on the podcast, is because it's like, I want to see what else is behind it. Because if you're bringing this up, I feel like there's way more to come. I don't know though.
I said at the top of the segment too, I haven't followed it closely because, and we haven't talked about it offline at all. We usually don't talk too much about sports when we're not doing this podcast because we know each other pretty well, sports wise and otherwise, how we think, and we're similar in a lot of ways, but we just don't talk about things. We save it for here. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop too, and then I'll figure it all out. But it's kind of like, it's like the Astros were wrong because they're using video and they got drums or whatever and they're doing all that. But if a runner is on second base and he touches his nose because he can decipher that the catcher is throwing a breaking ball, and then, the guy on deck or whatever, the guy at bat, like, see, that's baseball.
Yeah.
That's, to your point, sign stealing has happened for a while. When you got the Patriots in the stands videotaping, the game before that, or the practices,
that's something different.
That you can't do that. You can't. But of course, you're always going to look for an advantage. But it's an interesting story, and of course, like, after years of Michigan and paying Jim Harbaugh all of this, and now he's number 2 in the country, and now it's like there's this. So it'll be certainly more to. Yeah, more to come for sure.
For sure.
Here, but
before we get out of here, whoever stole the young boys' jewelry over at Colorado during the UCLA game, give them good luck to you, because I'm sure you're about to get found, whoever it is. And I feel like it's an inside job. We don't even have to go into that. Sam, what are you looking for the rest of the week and the weekend, sir?
Well, baseball. That's fun.
Okay.
Happy Halloween to you.
Same to you.
Do that with the fam, and that's pretty much it. Today is like a sports equinox, right? Like all 4 leagues are playing tonight, so that's pretty cool. When you listen to this on the podcast, it's over, so
absolutely
not really great job by me, but
that's okay. I'm gonna first say shout out to those that tuned into the live stream. I know it was last second. Shout out to Will specifically, because he's actually writing in the live stream, so I appreciate you, Will, a brother of mine. But I'm looking. What happened?
I said, "What's up, Will?"
Oh, there you go. I'm looking forward to. I wanted to also give, because we talked about the Liberty, and I didn't feel it was right that we didn't shout out the Aces for actually winning. So I wanted to give them their love, because I know good and damn well if the Liberty would have won, we'd have been talking about it to the moon and back. So shout out to the Aces for winning back to back. I know that didn't just happen, but I know we didn't talk about it. Looking forward to some more NBA action now, seeing what the Eagles do against the Cowboys. That's going to be where my attention is. So from at 4:25 on Sunday, I will absolutely be stressing. Do not. I don't need anybody to check in on me. I'll be okay. I will have some nice. I can't guarantee that I will be. And then doing some fall activities. Just definitely getting outside, because the leaves are changing rapidly right now, and it's getting a little bit colder. So I'll be getting outside. With that being said, Sam, close it out for us, please, good sir.
Thanks so much for listening. Episode 113, Chasing Points podcast in the books. Thanks so much. Again, if you're watching or listening, however you're doing it, thanks. Tell your friends at Chasing Points podcast on Instagram. So for Branden, I am Sam. Thank you so much for listening. Happy belated birthday to my sister, who's old now, like me.
Happy birthday, Tum Tum, because you're a couple months younger than me, or actually a month younger than me. So happy birthday to you. And for those that haven't listened before, I appreciate you. But it's getting cold out there, and it's been real wet in New York. So I'm going to need somebody to get me some waterproof socks. I don't know if that's a thing, but I need it. Or just give me a bunch of Gore-Tex, because I'm tired of walking outside into a tsunami every day. it feels like I'm walking out into a pool, Sam, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So just give me some sunshine and some rainbows and some leaves and pumpkin spice and apple cider donuts, and I'll be much better. Much better.
Beautifully
Goodbye.
said.